Hi, my name is Nob. Once again, I'm back with a new video. This one, as you can see the title, Christianity and Voodoo are the same religions. Well, I know a lot of you that are watching this video are saying to yourself, this Negro gotta be crazy. What is he talking about? Everybody know Voodoo is some religion Haitian practice, and some people in the west coast of Africa practice. How the hell Christianity and Voodoo are the same religions? Well, I will show a lot of parallels that made me come to the conclusion, that made me believe without a shadow of a doubt that Christianity is Voodoo. Well, first of all, Voodoo was here first. Voodoo's probably the oldest religion, period. The only religion you can compare as far as timeline with Voodoo is probably Hinduism. And Hinduism is another Voodoo. Hinduism is also Christianity. Christianity is like a baby Voodoo, a baby Hinduism, a baby Egyptian religion, a baby Sumerian religion, because all those religions came first, and then the people, the Israelites, they went captives to those regions, to those nations, and then they learned those religions, and then they came back to their land and created Christianity. So one thing with religions, they are like trees. Even when you read the New Testament, I mean, when you read the Tanakh, the so-called Old Testament, you read Genesis, they talk about two trees. Because trees, what do trees do? Trees feed you food. Religion feeds you food for thoughts. It's still the same thing. One is literal, the other one is just allegorical. So in Genesis, there were two trees. One tree was the tree of life, and then you had the other tree, the tree of good and evil. So the tree of life, that's the tree the Most High, after he put Adam in the garden, he told him, this is the tree for you to deal with. This is the good tree, the tree of life. And then he told him, well, the other tree, the serpent tree, the tree where the serpent dwelt, that's the tree of good and evil. So that it was good at the same time evil. So the tree of life really is the Most High's laws that he gave. Well, and this time it is the laws. Before that, it was some physical tree that the Most High, which still worked like the laws. It was more like a place or something where Adam, who had the Most High's laws in him genetically, naturally, he still needed that tree to still being good in the eyes of the Most High, to stay fresh. He still needed that tree of life. Until he messed up, then the access was taken away from him. But the tree of good and evil, that's the bad tree, the serpent tree. That's Christianity. That's the heathen religions. All of the heathen religions, including Christianity. That's Voodoo. It's funny. It's funny how you have the serpent teaching Adam and Eve something, and then you have Voodoo not only voodoo and all those heathen religions, they always had some type of serpents they follow as some god, some wizard, some big leader. If you go into almost all the heathen religion, they always had some serpents. Even in our time, serpent it represents some god of medicine, god of wisdom. And check out voodoo. Voodoo's called, another name for voodoo is cult of the serpent. It's funny how they call it cult of the serpent, and you have serpents all over in voodoo where people worship. You have this big serpent guy supposedly live in water called Dambala. When you go and study the Sumerian religions, they also had a bunch of gods supposedly that live underneath the water, because the Sumerian religion is voodoo. When I say is voodoo, I mean literally. It's the same religion, the same characters you have in the Sumerian religion, you also have them in voodoo. You also have them in the Egyptian religion, because the first civilization was in Sumer. And when Abraham used to live in Sumer, for those who believe that story. So civilization started in Sumer. When I say civilization, I mean civilization that started after that Adam, the 6,000 year ago Adam. I'm not saying Adam 6,000 years ago. For those who watch my videos, you know I'm not saying that Adam was the first man on earth, the one that lived in the garden, But the civilization we have right now is after that Adam. Anything that happened before Adam, before 6,000 years ago, we really have no proofs, no records, no anything at all. We may have a few writings on walls, but as far as books or anything preserving, even orally, anything that was preserved orally before Adam, we have none of that. Everything that we had eventually that we wrote down, oral traditions, they all came after Adam, especially after Noah. So as I was saying, the tree of life, the good tree, is really the Torah, the laws that the Most High gave to Adam and his descendants to follow. And then that's the so-called Old Testament, the Old Covenant. That's from the laws. And then you got a new idea now, a new type of way of seeing the Most High. Then that came later by the serpents. And that's the New Testament. It's funny how when these people put those books together, they call them so-called Old Testaments and New Testaments. And then when you really read the New Testaments, it's exactly what the serpent was teaching. And the New Testament, I'm saying, that Christians use to create Christianity, that is 100% voodoo, 100%. So, and like I said, in the garden, you had two trees, and both trees, they were given food. Tree of life and the tree of good and evil. Like I said, that's the Old Testament, the so-called Tanakh, that has the Most High's laws, the Torah, and then you have the New Testament. And the New Testament, which is based on the pagans' gods. So really, like I said in my other videos, there are really two so-called gods ever in history of mankind. You have the so-called God that Moses was teaching people, which you would call Yahweh, 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 or Yahweh, And then you have the heathen gods now. All of them put together, you might as well say that that's just one God, because all the heathen religions, they all follow the same serpent teaching, the same God. Like I did explain in my other videos, God came from the word Goth. So all the heathen gods, they're all the same. The heathen, they believe in gods that have to do with nature. So the heathen, they don't worship the Most High. So the God that the serpent was teaching Adam and Eve was really nature. Just like you see, the word nature comes from the Egyptian word neter. So the heathen gods, like the Egyptian called them, the netters. And then all the heathen gods, they always have a female gods with them. So it's never like one guy by himself. They always have a male and also a female. But with the so-called Hebrew God, the one that Abraham was following, the one that Moses was teaching the people, it never says that he had some female next to him. I'm not saying he didn't have a wife. That I don't know. We never see his house. We never see how he looks or what he's doing up there. So the heathen God, they always have a male and female. And one thing with the heathen God, they are all, just like in Christianity, they are all spirits. But the so-called God that Moses was teaching in the Tanakh, Moses never referred to him as a spirit. In Christianity and also in Voodoo, that so-called God is a spirit type of thing, something flying, a neuter type of entity flying around. He's everywhere. He's omnipotent. He got all the strength. He's omniscient. He knows everything. He's omnipresent. Because in nature is like everywhere. So that God, the heathen God, it's a different aspects of nature. One minute he comes down and represent himself as a sun, and then the next minute he's a thunder. The next minute he's a wind. He's everything. He's everything. Not only he's everything, he is everywhere. So that was one example to show how the heathen God that the heathen follow, the netter, he's everywhere. The same concept the heathen has to represent their so-called gods, they have it in voodoo. Voodoo is a religion where you people worship nature. And Christianity, when you really examine Christianity, is another religion where people worship anything that has to do with nature. You know, even Jesus, he's really, in voodoo, you have this guy named Ogu Philae. He's the same Ogun that the West Africans, peoples in the west part of Africa, worship also. So that Ogun, now I'm gonna compare him with Jesus. This guy, everybody who practice voodoo, when Ogun jump on them, you gotta wear some red thing, some red handkerchief. Second, you either have a machete or a sword, because Ogun is a god of war. So that's the second thing with that Ogu thing. The third thing with that Ogu thing, that Ogu so-called god, every time he mounts people, which I'm going to go into the mountain. He melts people the person has to have a liquor, a bottle of barbecue. That's what Haitian drink. Because that type of God, he's a God of war who liked to drink. And then they were that red thing. Now let's analyze Jesus. So I'm saying boldly, Jesus is Ogu in Voodoo. Christianity, his name is Jesus. But in Voodoo, his name is Ogu. Jesus is a God of war. Jesus promised, even when you read the book of Revelation, he promised that he's the one who's going to take down the serpent. He's the one who's going to come and being the hands of God who's going to execute judgment for his Father, killing everything. So Jesus is really a God of war, just like Ogu. When you read Revelation, he has what, a two-edged sword? Ogu is a machete or sword, whatever we had back then. Machete is a sword. And then Jesus, they said what? His eyes are bloodshot red. From what? Ogu got that red thing. Jesus got some bloodshot red eyes with a sword. And Jesus, when he was alive, one thing he was known for is a dude who drank a lot of wine. To the point where even his first miracle, he turned water into wine. Jesus in the New Testament was known as a wine bibber, somebody who drank a lot of wine. So it is the same. It is the same story. The people used to practice voodoo, and then when they created Christianity, they took that Jesus guy, and then, well, they took that Ogu or Tammuz, which is the same guy, or Osiris or Adonis, the same guy, and then they turned him to the latest religion, the last religion that was created, almost the last, and then later on another version of Christianity started called Islam. Islam is really another version of Christianity, where this guy, so-called Muhammad, he said, well, Jesus prophesied about him, because the ghost that Jesus promised that was going to make people speak in tongues. Muhammad came 1,300 years ago in some wilderness, in some desert. He said he was that ghost. Well, so for that's one similarity I show with the Jesus thing and Ogu, how Christianity and Voodoo is the same religion.